and folks who just really want to apply the acting locally to envisioning work globally mindset that we're really promoting in this greater Pittsburgh region. It's an opportunity to share resources and updates within the nonprofit sector and beyond to social impact more broadly, and also better understand long-term and short-term needs that began with the COVID-19 pandemic back in March of 2020, but has really evolved as a way to stay connected within the community. Since March of 2020, we've hosted 5,321 calls over Zoom with 45,483 participants. Typically, these calls last an hour with the presenter speaking for 25 to 30 minutes and then 10 minutes of Q&A. Just a reminder, please add your name and your organization to the chat. So that way, if there's any follow-up opportunities or moments to connect with our speakers this morning, they have your information. And also, if you have any questions, please add them to the chat and we'll be sure to address them as they come in and make sure that they're included in our Q&A. You can use the Q&A function of Zoom or chat. I'll be checking both. The Forbes Funds uses two frameworks to guide this work. So the Call for Community Solutions is an opportunity for us to share language that aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but also the social determinants of health, because we know that locally, when we're talking about alignment, a lot of these opportunities are point in time or because funding is at the table. But when it comes to long-term systemic change in our ecosystem, it really takes a vision looking beyond, what good health and well-being means right now or for the specific community and how we can create systems that are regenerative in the region. And so not only looking at what goals we're aligned with, but how we're intentionally setting KPIs collectively and as partners is extremely important. And the social determinants of health gives us kind of an early entrance point into partnerships that are maybe more broad in nature. So you have folks who are partnering on climate action, but also affordable and clean energy. Those both have to do with neighborhood and built environment, economic stability, social and community context, and gives folks, again, that common language to be able to develop deeper partnerships. These are the frameworks of the what and why we're doing this work. The 8 R's are a Forbes Funds framework looking at the how we employ these models. So returning on assets, returning on equity, return on investments, return on policy, return on relationships, return on sustainability, return on technology, and return on well-being. So as you're thinking through the call today, be sure to consider what sustainable development goals you're hearing or are aligning with your work, what social determinants of health, and then what is going to be possible in terms of success. Can you leverage your own assets to align with the Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh work? Can you leverage your policy work related to the advocacy component of the arts? Or are you just going to show up and leverage that relationship to be able to share the work that they're doing more broadly? Really quickly, we have a couple of folks on the call today, and as soon as I stop sharing and turn it over to Morgan, I will pin the group so you can see who's going to be presenting. But just for some quick background, the Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh program or initiatives an inclusive call to community members in Southwestern PA to share their visions of a just and equitable Pittsburgh. Today, the team will share how art is a means to expand our diversity consciousness. Art also has the power to imagine and advocate for a more equitable and inclusive future for the Pittsburgh region. Our partners that include Carnegie Museums of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, and other units at the University of Pittsburgh recognize that our endeavors as institutions to cultivate a just and equitable city must be more intentional, intersectional, and reflective of our evolving society. You'll hear today how you can be a part of Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh beyond submitting a call for art. So we are joined today by Mary Angbanzan from the David C. Frederick Honors College Social Innovation Coordinator, Morgan Overton, who is a veteran of the Call for Community Solutions. You saw her earlier this year speaking about the CREATE work from the David C. Frederick Honors College Artist in Residence Curator for Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh, and Ronnie Doko, David C. Frederick Honors College Director of Social Innovation, Associate Director of Center on Race and Social Problems. And for this conversation, beyond Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh, that also requires looking at how our unique ecosystems and gift, skills, and talents can apply to this work as well. So as you all are talking about the Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh opportunity, please also share a little bit about your work beyond this initiative and ways that we can keep you looped in the ecosystem. Thank you, folks. And with that, I will turn it over to Morgan.
Thanks, Emily. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. It's great to share space with you all again. Um, and let's get right into it. So Emily gave a pretty brief elevator spiel of Envisioning a Just Pittsburgh, but I kind of want to ground us first, and then we can get into the meat of it all. So again, if you don't know me by now, my name is Morgan Overton. I serve as the curator for Envisioning a Just Pittsburgh for the second year in a row. I'm also the inaugural artist in residence for the Frederick Honors College at Pitt. I'm a two-time Pitt alumna. I'm a Pittsburgh native. Sometimes I sound like it, sometimes I don't. It might slip in during this call. So let's just get right into it. So as Emily briefly said, this is a huge collaborative effort across major cultural institutions here in Pittsburgh. So as you can see based off of the logos, it's Pitt, the Carnegie Museums, it's One Hood, the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, and the August Wilson Center. And this is truly a first of its kind call for art that aims to expand diversity, consciousness, and celebrate intersectional perspectives and cultures. But what does that really mean? So I'm sure all of us who've been in this space for a while in Pittsburgh, what you see on the screen here is not new. As we know, our beloved city has been ranked the most livable city year after year. As a native Pittsburgher, listen, I love to hear that my hometown is being seen beyond its ugly duckling phase of, the steel town where you couldn't see the sky. But as we know, as many of us who are from Pittsburgh have lived through, this has been honestly the least livable city, especially for Black populations, Black women. And then I just pulled a couple of headlines here that speak to food deserts in our community, our lack of clean air, the carceral system, our Black maternal health crisis. And of course, a lot of this was elevated through the City of Pittsburgh Gender Equity Report that came out 5 years ago. And we're still reckoning with these issues. And a lot of you on this call are on the front lines of addressing these issues. But of course, as an artist, I am biased. I believe art has a way to have us understand these issues a little bit more broadly and challenge us. So, of course, I had to pull our hometown hero, August Wilson, and he said it best: art has the power to heal, unite, and transform society. And, it's so easy to kind of just take art for granted, but it really can set the tone for generations. I mean, some of these pieces we have seen time after time again, of course, Rosie the Riveter, women in the workforce, labor, Keith Haring and his work to address the AIDS crisis. And you can see other pieces of work here that honor the legacy of George Floyd and police brutality, or immigration, or our healthcare system. I wholeheartedly believe that art has a significant place in social change. And again, just driving us forward to see the world in a different, more expansive way, which is why Envisioning a Just Pittsburgh exists. It harnesses the power of art to imagine and advocate a more equitable Pittsburgh. And so we ask emerging or super seasoned artists to submit their work for this call for art to help us think of what justice and equality and community resilience looks like. So I think that kind of gives us a pretty good solid grounding of why Envisioning a Just Pittsburgh is so necessary. We don't want this to be a one-off call for art or event with a showcase. We really want this to set the tone and the culture of what Pittsburgh can truly be and live up to that promise of being a most livable city. So there are various categories here that our artists can submit to. If you are gifted with word, say you want to give a testimony of your lived experience, we welcome short story, poetry, personal essay. The August Wilsons who are currently in our communities now, we want to hear from them. Of course, for the me's of the world, the visual artists, two-dimensional works, three-dimensional works, whether it's sculpture, fiber art, or painting, shameless plug, this is my art right behind me. If you are a drawer, if you're a painter, we want to see all of that. We also ask for performance. So if you groove your body to justice, if you sing spoken word, we want that as well. We also welcome video and interdisciplinary. And for our folks who are 17 and younger, by October 20th, and October 20th is our deadline for this call for art. We also want to ensure our youth have a space to express what they want to see from Pittsburgh in all the categories that I just explained. And of course, we believe in paying artists. So for our adult categories, there are four first place awards of $2,000 each and four runner-ups of $750. And for the kiddos, four first place awards of $750 and four runner-ups of $250. And then we also have honorable mention displays of up to 40 awards of $50 each. So I'm about to get into some nitty-gritty criteria here, so bear with me, y'all. So for the artists themselves, they must be part of the Pittsburgh metro area, so essentially Southwestern Pennsylvania. So current residents, students here in Pittsburgh, those who were born here and still attached to the city. I lived in Boston for 2 years and I never missed Pittsburgh as much as I did when I was in Boston and I came back home. So you could take somebody out of Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh still stays within you. And again, for our youth artists, that includes those who are 17 or younger on October 20th. And of course, those who are 18 plus will qualify for our adults. Now, here's where we get into the real bone marrow of all of this. So, of course, when folks are submitting to this call for art, it goes without saying, but it must be said, that all the work must be original and designed and created by the applicant. We want to see all the talent and goodness and greatness that artists here in Pittsburgh can offer. And all of the work must have a relation to the theme, Envisioning a Just Pittsburgh. So if there are certain social issues that you feel called to speak on that you may have experienced here in Pittsburgh, if there's something that this city can do better on, or just something that speaks to a future in which we all can thrive, that is the overarching theme. And all of the work must not have been previously exhibited in Pittsburgh. So I said this before, it might sound a little selfish, but we kind of want this to be original works that speak directly to this theme of envisioning a just Pittsburgh. The showcase for this call for art will occur next February 2025. And all of the work that will be submitted must have been completed within the past 2 years. So that means February 2023. Time is flying. I don't know how we're already in almost 2025. Of course, if you're submitting video and sound, we want everybody to be able to experience it in its greatness in a gallery setting. The showcase will take place at the University of Pittsburgh for the second round. Specific location to be determined, but we want to be able to display it in its fullness. If there's any documented performances, that is ineligible. So for example, if you've presented at Picklesburg or the Three Rivers Arts Festival, that is ineligible. So we kind of, again, want all of the originality to exist within the EJP universe. And again, we want this to be original, original, original. I know we're in the AI era now, but we want the creativity to come directly from your hands, from your brain, so AI will not be considered. All right, so let's get into the submission criteria. I hope y'all are still with me. I know this is a lot of information for a Monday morning. So all of the works for art for this call for art will be submitted virtually. We're using Qualtrics as our submission page and database. So we want all submissions to be submitted in its most clearest possible form, so that way we can appreciate the art in its fullness. And if selected, the piece that will be displayed at Pitt is restricted to the piece that was submitted. So, for example, if you submit a piece about, let's say, a park in Pittsburgh, we don't all of a sudden want a piece about the pizza battle between Minios and Aiellos. You know what I'm saying? So we want the piece that you submitted. Performance pieces must not exceed 4 minutes of video, and winners will perform their pieces live at the showcase. And we're getting into some logistics here about the size. So physical canvas or fiber art can't exceed 10 feet wide. Sculptures can't exceed 15 pounds. And written works must be within 1,000 words. So everything that I'm saying here is on the homepage for Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh on Pitt's website. But this is just kind of the elevator spiel for you all. And as we get further into this, everybody can submit up to 2 pieces of art, but you have to submit them separately. And artists can share up to 3 images of the work, including detail shots, so we can see all of the skill that you have. And then, of course, high quality images of your work or audio must be submitted so we can, again, take in your greatness in full. Of course, this is a juried art process. So that means various stakeholders within the community will serve as the set of jurors to review the submitted works and, again, ask themselves, does this piece of art inspire and expand the consciousness of what Pittsburgh can be? Is it bold? Is it authentic? I think this is probably one of the best challenges for artists, and I mean that in the best way, to kind of get outside of your comfort zone, go for it. If there's something that you want to express your voice on, if there's something that is speaking on your spirit, this is your time to do so. This is the space to do so because we want it to inspire others. So some key dates here, of course, like I said, October 20th at 11:59 p.m. is the deadline to submit. I've included the link here. It is pitt.ly/envision24. And then once all of these applications are in by November 18th, 2024, hopefully all of us will be in great spirits by then because it'll be after the election. People will be notified of their application status. By December 3rd, 2024, our artists will have signed their agreements. And again, as mentioned, in early 2025, we will have our showcase. So just to give you all a glance of what our inaugural year looked like, what it felt like, if you were not there, it was at the Foster Overlook at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. It was a beautiful evening. I mean, the whole space was filled to the brim of people of all backgrounds, all sectors, truly just understanding the assignment of not only thinking and honoring what Pittsburgh could look like, but also valuing the artists themselves. So as you can see, some of our winners are featured here. Everybody's smiling, everybody's happy. We deserve wholesome content like this in this day and age. So this is what we're aiming to go for with this call for art, and we're only trying to get better from here. So that was basically the long and the short of it. I do want to give Ajani, if she is still here, space to give her account of what it felt like to be an honorable mention artist. Again, this is my contact information, meo113@pitt.edu. But I also want to give space for someone who's experienced this call for art to tell us, what has happened since your time as an EJP artist. So Ajani, if you're here, I see you with your fro, girl. Go ahead.
Yes. So, hello, I'm Ajani Zanea. I am a Communications and Africana Studies graduate from the University of Pittsburgh, and I also have some background and certification in digital media. I recently have now claimed myself as an artist due to my experiences emerging within the scene. So I grew up, learning about art, taking art classes, but I never saw myself as an artist. Um, after graduating, I was like, what am I going to do? And I wanted to take more time to explore my life and to explore my passions. I pursued originally going into health, and then I decided that through communications, I was better able to assist my community and to educate people. And so I decided that why not explore that pathway through art? So envisioning a Just Pittsburgh was perfect for me because I moved to this city from a small town called York, Pennsylvania. And I thought to myself, well, Pittsburgh is quite interesting. I came on in the year where they released the study about it being the worst for Black women. And so I got to see like what that actually looked like from a collegiate point of view. And then moving back, getting to see that the growth as an individual, as a Black queer femme person in Pittsburgh, what that meant. And so getting to participate in the showcase, I really wanted to make sure that I was using my voice. I really wanted to make sure that I was exploring my passion and my creativity as an artist. I was asked like probably a month or two prior to the exhibition, why don't you consider yourself an artist? And honestly, as I took more time to reflect on that question, I recognized that it was because although I was in art classes, although I did art growing up, I never was around people that looked like me producing art. The closest I got to that was going to maybe a Black art museum, and those are very like few in between. So I decided to submit this piece. It's hanging up behind me. You can't really see the whole thing, but here's like a digital rendition of it. So it's called Down to the Root of Unity, Stop Scalping Our Communities. When I decided to make this, I started to envision what a Just Pittsburgh would look like to me, and I thought that was very layered. And so I decided to make a multimedia piece that includes the Pittsburgh, skyline, the bridge that we see, but then as you look into the waters, you actually see the Hill District and you see East Liberty. These are archived photos from like the 19 and 1800s. But I really wanted to bring emphasis to the communities that did work here prior. And one of the first things I learned about when I came to Pittsburgh was the Black influence on art and culture and the economic boom that existed. And so I really wanted to highlight when we are thinking about what envisioning a Just Pittsburgh looks like, when we're considering the studies that are currently going on, when we are thinking about the health disparities, when we are thinking about food deserts, when we're thinking about access to healthcare and just all these different disparities that exist within Pittsburgh and honestly our society, we have to start thinking about the future of those people, the future of the youth, but also the current people that exist there. And so for me, making this piece was about acknowledging the Black communities that already existed here, that have been segregated and defunded and gentrified. And so in this picture, the map of Pittsburgh is braided into the hair. And so as you can see, like here, the braids. And that was so important to me because I felt as if when we are talking about the roots of a city and where we are going, it is always important to look at the people who participated in that. While Black individuals have had a core foundation, I know that it's not only Black communities, but I wanted to bring emphasis through ways that I was able to speak on and what I have directly saw. And so since participating in Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh, I am now an artist, very much claim to be an artist. But beyond that, I also have been accepted into different creative cohorts. So I'm doing a creative fellowship with The Future is Black, which is a great Black organization that focuses on arts and Afrofuturism. And they're helping us specifically in partnership with Bridgeway to help us with developing our business. Then I'm going to be a part of the I actually got accepted to a good bit of things recently due to like my experiences. But I got accepted into the critical insight cohort, which is with the Pittsburgh Public Theater. I get to expand my writing and talk about critiques in art from different community members, different arts organizations that are doing work here. But then I also get to work with nationally acclaimed writers to grow my voice. And then on top of that, I get to work with the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust for their STEAM symposium, educating youth about advocacy in media. And so I never would have thought that art would have led me to this lifestyle. When I was in college and I was pursuing, first I was doing neuroscience, and then I was doing med, and then I decided to switch to communications. I didn't really think about art as that accelerator for my life. But now it makes so much sense for me, because as someone who studied culture, as someone who studied communications, and who studied the interdisciplinary subjects that overlap with all the disparities going on, I have the power to educate and to inform through my artwork. And that is why I feel so passionately about Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh, because it's more than art. It's more than an exhibition. It's more than people just making something and submitting it. It's about the conversation of what equity and justice work actually looks like. It's about people showing and proving what their experiences are like and how they want to contribute to the future. We are inviting artists, we are inviting people to show up, to tell us what they want to see. That is so powerful to me, and to be able to participate in that way has truly transformed my life. Like, I'm getting a little emotional about it. I'm about to cry, but it's truly transformational, because especially for me being from a small town and getting these opportunities, yes, I've lived in Pittsburgh for the last 5 years. I've seen the growth, but everyone doesn't have opportunities like this. And to have more chances to share your voice, to have more equity in your community, to highlight what is going on is necessary and it's needed, especially when it comes to funding, especially when it comes to pushing out diverse initiatives. And I just believe that more people can contribute, participate, and show up. Participation doesn't always look like submitting art. Sometimes it's sharing with your network. Sometimes it's showing up to the actual event. Sometimes it looks like monetary donations. Whatever the support may be into the capacity that you're able to provide is very important to me, because I wouldn't have been able to grow to the path that I've been on this year alone if it wasn't for my participation. I've been featured in the it's called TFAN, I don't want to mess up their acronym, but I want to say it's Transformational Black Arts. It's something of that sort. They even got highlighted, and I got to join them for we were at city council and they got a proclamation. And I'm so sorry that I can't recall their name right now. But yeah, like getting to be a part of those networks and getting to meet more people through my artwork has been empowering to me. But I've also seen how empowering it is to others. When people look at my artwork and then they start seeing like little details and they start learning more about what's going on, that is the type of education you can't always get in a classroom. You can't always make people learn. You can't always make people see your truth. And artwork is that common factor that makes you feel a situation. And so I'm so glad that people have felt powerful, have felt heard, and felt seen by my artwork, because that is what I make my art for. And I want other people to be able to have those opportunities as well. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate this chance to even get to speak with your community on how we can have a solution for us in Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ajani. Snaps and kudos and flowers to you. You know, these are the sort of stories that we want to honor and cherish in Pittsburgh, because there are so many people who feel like you, who feel like it's not a glass ceiling, but a concrete ceiling. And you try to figure out how to push your way through, and you get so tired to the point that you want to leave Pittsburgh. And, you know, I do believe in what this city can be. My artistic practice is rooted in Bell Hooks, who was a Black feminist writer. And she said the function of art is to do more than tell it like it is, it's to imagine what's possible. And so it's not only just envisioning a just Pittsburgh, but it's also envisioning what's possible for artists like you to be able to thrive, to have community, to be able to speak openly and proudly that you are an artist here in Pittsburgh to community like this morning. So thank you, Ajani. Thank you to everyone again for being gathered here. We're happy to take any questions. I know this was like a crash course of information, but we're here for dialogue. So happy to hear any questions, comments, vibes, anything.
Thank you so much, Morgan. I have been keeping an eye on the chat and I haven't seen anything come in, but I did want to emphasize Dr. Carter Fry said that Ajani, those were her majors at University of Pittsburgh too. So you have a kindred spirit on the call. And also I saw that you shared, Morgan, a lot of the pictures from your inaugural event last year. And I'm wondering, what were some of your kind of like lessons learned about other than like the logistics of the event, right? But like the other ways that you can amplify and create ongoing conversations and change beyond a single day from this work.
Yeah, I think what you just said is the sustainability piece of, how do we keep that energy moving and thriving? I can hear myself. I don't know if someone is unmuted. Um, that's always trippy to hear yourself. But no, we don't want this to be a one-off event, right? I think most of us who are in the nonprofit space, in the forward-thinking space in Pittsburgh, we've had these discussions over and over and over. As someone who is a policy wonk, I'm all like, all right, how do we get to action? What do we do? And in this space of the arts, how can we galvanize the community around, taking accountability within our own respective organizations to honor the arts? I think especially as we've emerged from the pandemic, how much we've craved human connection, but how much all of us kind of deferred to the arts as a form of meaning during that time. I think that's another reason why this call for art came into existence, because it's a collaboration of major institutions in Pittsburgh. I mean, the Carnegie Museums, the Carnegie Library. Some of our winning artists went on to have their works showcased at Hillman Library at the University of Pittsburgh. Some went on to perform at the August Wilson Center. Some went on to have their work showcased, and actually some of them became artists in residence in their own right through the Carnegie Libraries. So even after the showcase, artists went on to have their own career amplifying opportunities. So, that's one form of a way that we're trying to reinforce, not just with the institutions that are part of this collaboration, but each of you in your respective organizations, how do the arts and how can the arts play a role in the collective work that you're trying to foster? So I think, Emily, to your overall question, it is $1 million question of how can we keep this an ongoing conversation all year round? Because hopefully it can galvanize not only artists, but people who come to the showcase to recognize their own intrinsic power to create a just Pittsburgh. It might be through art. It might be through being an editor. It might be through working at a bank. It might be through real estate, right? These are all factors that contribute to, how we make systemic cultural shifts in this region. I don't know if any of my pit team want to add on to that, but that's kind of my gut feeling with this.
I'll just quickly add that part of what we think is so important for the work that we do is to elevate folks like Morgan. As Morgan mentioned, she is our first artist in residence at the Honors College, and we felt it was important that folks like her that are doing such incredible work have the platform to help us further envision how we do this work, particularly at institutions like the University of Pittsburgh. And so we are grateful for her leadership in this space. We're grateful for folks like Ajani, a Pitt alum, participating. Our goal is to say this is a region-wide initiative, and so we certainly encourage folks to take this information to share with your communities. We would love to see submissions from folks on this call and from your networks, and to remind us that this is an ongoing exercise, that we continuously need vision, right? So we have an idea of what we're working towards. As Morgan shared earlier, we're in very precarious times where it can be very easy to be cynical. and to be apathetic. And so we know art can inspire, but also motivate folks towards change. And so we're constantly looking for the opportunity to uplift vision and visionaries like Morgan and Ajani to really put people in the best position to lean in their desire for a world in which everybody can thrive.
Thank you, Ron. And if you wouldn't mind, because I know at the beginning of the call, before a bunch of folks joined, you were talking about the Building a Beloved Community event on September 21st, but also the recent conference you presented at. One of the goals for these calls is to be, as Ajani said, truly transformative. It's not just about, an information and getting people to show up. Could you share a little bit more about your work and kind of tie it into the conversation we're having this morning?
Indeed, and thank you for that opportunity. So just some brief background, as was shared, I work as the Director of Social Innovation in the Honors College here at the University of Pittsburgh. And what that basically means is we're always looking for ways in which we can rethink society in the most positive way possible. How do we help students think about what transformative social change looks like? And so we work to put together programs that, again, really position students in our community to develop the skill sets and the networks towards social change. And so we're hosting a program on September 21st, which is open to all, called Building a Beloved Community, where we highlight unique change makers like Morgan. She'll be featured in the program to really think about what are the ways in which we can not just envision change, but make it happen, right? What are those particular competencies and skill sets we can develop, and so that people feel much more empowered towards making positive change happen in their communities. This is something, again, that we would certainly love your participation in this program. We would love your community's participation in the program. And this is part of the work that we do at the university to really center, again, the idea of social transformation, positive social change, really putting ourselves in a position to take advantage of the desire of many of our students to want the world to be better, right? And giving them the platforms and the spaces to do so. And then speaking to the conference that we just presented at, we had an opportunity to present on some of the work that we're doing to help advance racial equity at the 6th World Conference on Remedies to Racial and Social Inequality, which was held in Cape Town, South Africa. It was a great experience where we got to meet people all over the world that are doing incredible work to really help their communities become much more thriving and equitable. And it gave us an opportunity to realize, how impactful the work we are doing is. I mean, sometimes it's really helpful to see what your peers are doing and really reflect on the work that you're doing in that space. And so we're grateful for those opportunities to share and happy to engage anyone who wants to know more about the Racial Equity Consciousness Institute, which is the intervention that we presented on. I'll put a link about the Racial Equity Consciousness Institute in the chat. We host open cohorts for folks who want to learn more about the work that we do, which basically, in a nutshell, is we help people learn the complexity and pervasiveness of racism. And I think more importantly, help them learn how to actively cultivate racial equity, cultivate those processes of eliminating racial disparities and improving outcomes for everyone.
Thank you so much, Ron. And I saw Mary and Candace, you're also on the call this morning. If there's anything else you want to add during, final thoughts or anything that from your perspective is really important to emphasize for this.
I don't have anything to add. I think all I'll say is it's incredible to be in community with my colleagues. And I'm glad to be on this call and hopeful for any collaborations that may arise from this call. I will put my email in the chat if you want to reach out to me, if you have an idea for how we might be able to collaborate, if you want us to present to just specifically to your organization, we're open to do that as well. I put a link to the promotional materials that we have. Meaning we can also print those materials for you and coordinate pickups, drop-offs, all those type of things. And yeah, just incredibly grateful to be here. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Morgan. And thank you, Emily, for hosting us.
Thanks so much for joining us. And Candace, I know, John, I see you have a question. I just want to make sure I give a shout out to the team and the brilliant minds who are behind this event really quickly.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you for letting us be invited to this meeting, and just great company. Thank you.
Thanks, Candace. And thanks, EJP team. John, I see you have a question. Feel free to come off mute. And then I will turn it over to Fred.
Okay, I like the presentation and that what the team was saying. So what you're saying that we are to imagine or expect something to happen or appear in a particular way. And for example, arts, painting, sculpture, performing, which people do these with skills and imagination.
You got it.
And I saw, thank you, John. I appreciate the clarifying question because there were a lot of different points that Morgan went through. And I would encourage everyone to go through the website as well. And I saw Mary also dropped in the chat the folder containing promotional material for Envisioning A Just Pittsburgh, so we can continue to circulate the October 20th deadline and making sure that folks are getting their tickets early. I was one of the folks who waited to get tickets last year, and it was already sold out, just to show, I mean, how much the hype is well deserved for this event, but how important it is to have these conversations in person, to see the art, to get to have the full experience. And promote the work that is happening as well. So thank you to the EJP team. And Fred, I will turn it over to you to share any final thoughts or context from the presentation this morning before I jump to the public policy updates.
Thank you all. I think this is another indication of what's needed. I think it requires courage to confront the brutal facts of Pittsburgh. I think all too often we're caught up in the perception of Pittsburgh versus the reality. And for some people, they've never seen or experienced the reality of people of color in Pittsburgh. And so art is a strong vehicle that allows us to explore across race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic strata the challenges and opportunities. So Morgan and your team, I think it's very noble of you. And I don't say that lightly. I think art has always been revolutionary to me. I'm an artist. I ran into somebody the other day and asked them, was the governor's school still functioning? I'm a graduate of the Governor's School for Performing Arts in 1981. And so I remember being on the campus of Bucknell and the different types of mindsets and ideologies that existed. And it really personified, in a way, who I've become over the years. And so I'm really honored in any way that we can help, Morgan, you and your team bring this work to fruition. The thing I'm interested in that I wasn't clear about is, how do people partner with you in a meaningful way, given the depth and breadth of your work? And is there areas that you've targeted that need to be stronger to create a more holistic delivery system for your mechanism? Thank you.
We are always open-armed to have more partners. But I do understand the intentionality of your question of, not having too many cooks in the kitchen. But at the same time, I mean, the collective that's here demonstrates a willingness to not operate in silos. And so that's the kind of energy that we welcome in this space. And just being a presence, being able to offer a different perspective of something that we may not be seeing in our sort of original group is always welcomed. And I guess that kind of answers your second point, which is I just want to make sure the word gets out. I know as a Pittsburgher, I tend to not know things are happening until well after it happened. It's like, why didn't anybody tell me about this? Why wasn't anybody knocking on my door? And it's just a matter of, kind of breaking out of our bubbles. So again, we have a whole slew of people here who can share it out to their respective networks, but, help us identify where to tap into. Should we be flyering at different barber shops, meeting people where they're at? Because not everybody's on social media. So Ron, I don't know if you have another vantage point to Fred's question.
Yeah, I think for us, we are always very much interested in building our community partnerships. I think as Morgan shared, one of the challenges that we have at the university, even within the institution, is silos where information doesn't travel as far as it needs to. And I know when it comes to our community engagements, certainly we need to be much more intentional about making sure we're leveraging our community partners, realizing we don't have to do everything, particularly when there are community partners that are already leading in the space. And so we're always mindful of the fact that this is a collective effort and that we are just one cog in this machine around this region, that there are other folks doing great work. We are always open to ideas on how we can better collaborate and support initiatives that have a collective interest. I shared my contact information in the chat. Certainly, if you have thoughts on what we can be doing better as an institution or how we might be in a position to partner up with your organization, please don't hesitate to reach out. And as I mentioned, for us, when it comes to programming, all of the programming that we put together at the Center on Race and Social Problems and in the Honors College Social Innovation team is community engaged. And so we want the community to take advantage of these opportunities. And we recognize, one of the best ways to do so is to have community partners that can get the information to them. And so we encourage folks to please share broadly on the things that we're doing. And if there are things that you all are doing that are open to the university community, we would certainly welcome that and share that information as well. But as I mentioned, we are always open to partnership and ideas. And so please don't hesitate to reach out, if there are ways in which we can be of support or collaborators in the work that we're doing to make Pittsburgh better for everybody.
My last question is, I heard earlier the mention of sustainability, and I know the university is one vehicle, but the partners are another. Have you guys given much thought to the integration of a sustainable model that looks at the thing that's important about your work is sometimes it can be seen as an event, and I think Morgan was alluding to that. You hear about stuff as an event. What you're proposing to us, at least from my interpretation, is the development of an ongoing ecosystem that's supported by new ideas and growth through strategic collaboration and partnerships to produce a different long-term sustainable vision for the city that's a dichotomy to the current practices. So we're talking about shifting mindsets of people over 20, 30, and 40 years. That's not going to happen in an event. And so I'm interested in the methodology, the pedagogy by which you look at shifting the mindsets in a strategic and pragmatic way over the course of this work. Thank you.
Absolutely. And not to put my colleague on the spot, but I see Justin Dandoy on the call. And so, I don't want to speak out of turn, but certainly our Office for Engagement and Community Affairs has been very vital in doing what you've just spoken to, Fred, is really ensuring that this effort is sustainable, that it's ongoing, that it's expansive, that it puts us in a position to continuously engage openly, consistently. Justin, certainly, if you have additional thoughts, speaking from the ECA, please do chime in.
Yeah, I'll just say from the ECA perspective, I know that sometimes when our community partners are, they might want to find a way to connect with Pitt or engage with Pitt. Sometimes that can be difficult because Pitt is such a, large system with, systems within systems, and each one is, different and complicated and those type of things. So you sort of start and say, where can we start? And so know that the faces on the call today are certainly a great place to start. Ron, the work that he's doing, if you can reach out directly, but if you're just unsure, you can always, connect with our Office of Engagement Community Affairs, because that's our sort of role at the institution, is figuring out, okay, what are the needs we have here? What is the opportunity for collaboration and work? And so who do we need to connect you with? And so that can certainly happen through our office. And so, at any point, I'll drop my information in the chat too. And so folks can reach out and we can hopefully get you with the right, because sometimes it's a course you want to be working with. Sometimes it's faculty, sometimes it's a student volunteerism opportunity. So, whatever it may be, we can find the way to connect to make the partnership most powerful. So thanks, Ron. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ron and Justin. And Ajani, I saw you had your hand up as well in response to Fred's question. Did you want to add anything?
I did. So one of the ways that we are looking to expand as of now is to open up a panel discussion to have representative community members who are doing equity and justice work, also sustainability work, to host this conversation so that it could have more community insight and to have more opportunity for learning. at the current moment, I am putting that together. We are having difficulties finding a location. Originally, we wanted it to be in October, but I do realize that it is September now. So if we can't make October, at least before the showcases, and one of the reasons that we thought this would be a good idea to expand in this way is because many people have difficulties conversing about sensitive topics like DEI, race, sustainability, equity, and things of that. So by having leaders in the community center themselves within the conversation and make it a more inviting opportunity, we think it'll just grow how people are speaking over what justice looks like in Pittsburgh. So we already see the program expanding in that way through community partners. I do work with One Hood as their media literacy fellow. So through engaging the community in this way, that is really important to us. So there's other connections in that sort that could either help with this specific panel or other initiatives in the future. That would be great.
One thing that I want to quickly say, and something that's coming to mind for our showcase, is that should be a space that is generative, where, we're intentional in inviting key stakeholders like elected officials, like power makers here in the region who can effectuate change systemically. But beyond that, that should be a space where you learn about what's going on in Allegheny County, because to Ron's point, it's so easy to kind of, we got 11 nonprofits in Allegheny County, and a lot of that's probably due to the fact that you don't know what's going on in Monroeville and you're working on the same issue in Homewood. And it's like, oh, y'all never even knew each other existed. So, I would love for that to be a space where people can get to know one another. And through seeing the art that you've created about environmental justice, about Black maternal health, maybe that can spur programming that's done. Maybe that can spur a panel that Ajani leads, right? To kind of be an organic way to keep the conversation going, and not just at the event, but rather, just spur intentional collaboration amongst each other.
I love that idea, and I appreciate the kind of openness and curiosity that is just kind of coming up naturally on this call, beyond a promotion or a point in time kind of thing. I will make sure that we get the recording up to YouTube this week and link it in our newsletter this Friday. So if folks have any questions, please refer to that. And thank you, Mary, for sharing the link to the folder in the chat. I also saw you added the Building a Beloved Community event flyer, Saturday, September 21st from 9 to 1. We will also add that to our newsletter this week. I'll flag it for Bree and Christine. Thank you so much to the EJP team for presenting this morning. I'm going to launch our poll really quickly for the folks on this call to be able to give feedback and make sure that we have upcoming conversations that are reflective of immediate needs in the community, but also longer conversations like this one, so that we can keep iterating and having a participatory conversation, on these Monday conversations. I'm going to share my screen very quickly as soon as the toolbar lets me. All right. So very quickly, couple policy updates this morning, and then I will adjourn the call. As this conversation is taking place, there's actually a presentation on the longtime owner-occupant tax exemption program press conference taking place with the mayor's office. And so Mayor Ed Gainey, Senator Jay Costa, and Action Housing Vice President of Housing and General Counsel Kyle C. Webster are hosting an event. This legislation was signed by our governor back in, July of this year, but the press conference happening today is because this conversation really originated in Pittsburgh under Senator Costa's leadership. And the purpose of this is provide opportunity for Pittsburgh residents to have a way to remain in their homes following rapid increases in property taxes due to new developments. A quote from the article, and you can see the links at the bottom of these slides, which we can share, is that the program will allow Pittsburgh's mayor and city council to exempt or defer increases in property taxes for people who have lived in homes they own for a certain period of time in certain neighborhoods where the property values have skyrocketed. And this is a way to prevent or lessen, mitigate impacts of gentrification where there is development happening throughout the city of Pittsburgh, and looking at the last decade and how communities have developed, making sure that you protect housing as a right for the populations who have owned their homes for generations is extremely important. And so the fact that this was introduced in this area of the state, and Governor Shapiro, signed this into law back in July. This is a huge conversation, and for anybody in the housing and advocacy space, make sure that you are staying up to date on the conversation, and as communities are being announced and the more details around the specific rates and protections are scoped per community and with zoning, we'll be providing more updates. Also around housing, the Pennsylvania State Senate Democratic Policy Committee hosted a hearing on the 7th featuring 2 panels highlighting public health impacts caused by PFAS and policy solutions that could address the use of PFAS, a diverse class of over 15,000 chemicals which are toxic and break down slowly over time, yet are used widely for household and industrial purposes. So really the topic this morning around housing equity, environmental equity, and how these issues are very intersectional. There's a lot happening in Pittsburgh around these conversations just in the last couple of weeks, even to the press release this morning. So just as a reminder, to stay up to date on how these issues are intersectional, and as we're talking about equity and justice and envisioning a just Pittsburgh, there are so many issues that filter into that and can be represented through the arts. And I really appreciate the EJP team for joining us this morning. Next Monday, we'll be joined by Jody Siegel. She is the founder of Big Change Consulting. And as we're talking about end of year, looking at HR and benefits and the challenges and costs rising for nonprofit organizations, particularly those with a small number of staff, and making sure that this is, work with dignity. The social impact sector is, I think, can be rebranded as the for impact sector versus the nonprofit sector, since that's a tax status. And so looking at how we can pay people and provide benefits that support not only a living wage, but a high quality of life for the individuals who are the front lines of so many issues for the most vulnerable members of our population is huge. And so a lot of that starts with putting in place systems and supports for the employees of our organizations. And so next week to talk about education opportunities and how we can manage that within our own organizations and sphere of control. Jody will be joining us from 10 to 11 next Monday. So thank you so much for joining our conversation today. We are ending right at 11, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.